Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder. Today's guest is Tim Licata. Tim, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate you for having me, Quentin. Excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm excited to learn your story, learn a little bit more about you, Tim, and kind of share that with everybody else. So, Tim, the first question I want to ask you is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Currently, I'd have to say Samson. Big fan of his physique right now. I think he's up and coming, so I think he's just really right now kind of tapping into his full potential. I also like Roman Fritz. I know he hasn't been, prevalent as of recently. I know he had his hip replaced a few years back, but just his consistency, the discipline. I like his physique. I think he's an all around cool guy. And Jay Cutler, I have to go with Jay. He was kind of the first real bodybuilder, I guess you could say, that kind of got me hooked on the sport. I was like, how can you be so big and so lean? And I was hooked.
Cool. Okay, now Samson, where do you think he's going to place at the Arnold? Do you think he's got a shot to win it, or where are you thinking he's going to find it himself?
I would like to see him win it. At least the lineup I saw for the Arnold's pretty stacked. I would realistically say it's probably third, top three. Given Nick Walker's coming into it, Andrew Jack looks awesome. There's just some heavy hitters, and I would love to see Samson, win it, which I think he has the potential to. But all in reality, I'd probably say top three.
Okay, yeah. And I think he competed at last year's Arnold, and what did he get, 6th or 7th or something like that? Or
yeah, I want to say it was 6th. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that would be, especially with this lineup, I think it's going to be quite a bit more competitive than last year's lineup, and that'd be pretty respectable. So,
for sure.
Cool. Okay, Tim. So, why don't you just tell us a little bit about when you started lifting weights, and then at kind of like what age, and then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
Yeah, so I started lifting weights, kind of messing around when I was in really 6th grade. I got my first, bench press from my grandpa. It was actually like it was made out of wood. It had like a sheepskin on it, like a heavy PVC pipe, and I had like 2 25-pound plates. So, I was just benching, curling, and doing dips and shrugs. I mean, that was pretty much it.
Okay.
Main reason why I got into it was football. I just wanted to, get bigger, stronger at football. And then I got my first gym membership a few years later. And yeah, that's really kind of what got me into it.
Okay. Now I got to ask you, that's super cool that your grandpa made your first weight set for you. Now, is that something that you asked for for Christmas, or did he just kind of know that you were into the weights, or how did he kind of know to get that for you?
Yeah, well, he actually had it. I think it was his. It was at his house, and I started to kind of just mess around. We had a few dumbbells and a treadmill at my house, nothing crazy. And my mom was like, "Hey, I think Grandpa has a weight bench for you." And I was like, "Sounds good. I want it." If he's not using it, which he wasn't, I'm like, "I want it." So, he gave that to me. He had those old sand plates. They're filled with sand. So I had 2 of those. And like a thick PVC pipe, and that's pretty much it. So it was kind of he wasn't using it, and I wanted it, so that's kind of how that works.
Cool, humble beginnings, man. I love it. That's
For
awesome.
Sure.
Okay, now Tim, I want to kind of just transition into a little bit more of your childhood and your upbringing, start getting into your backstory a bit. So why don't you talk a little bit more about where you actually grew up, what state? And then, you mentioned football. I'm assuming you probably played some other sports like most of us growing up. And then, parents, are you an only child? Just paint the picture of your childhood, your upbringing up to about high school for us, please.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up close to Akron, Ohio, lived in Akron all my life. Can you hear me, Quentin?
Yeah. I just froze up. It'll come back in a quick minute.
Okay. Yeah. Grew up, around Akron, Ohio, about 45 minutes south of Cleveland. Went to school in Stowe, which is right next to Akron, Cuyahoga Falls. Kind of grew up in that area my whole life. I have an older brother, 3 years older than me. He's, never really been into the working out, whole lifting weights things. He kind of went with my dad in a way. I mean, my parents are still together, but my dad kind of took him under his wing, and I kind of hung out with my mom. I was kind of a mama's boy for a while. So, my brother was working on cars and, construction type stuff. And, I was doing the fun stuff, going out to eat with my mom and, going shopping and stuff like that. So, from probably about fourth grade, my parents, they have a rough relationship even growing up. They're kind of, it's hard to see, they're kind of in a stalemate. My mom would talk shit about my dad would talk shit about my mom. They still live together, which beats me. I'm like, I don't want to hear it, either split or like just keep me out of it. My brother feels the same way. So yeah, that was rough growing up. Me and my mom were best buds. We kind of started butting heads towards probably when I was about 15, 16. My brother and I became really good friends. Growing up, we would fight here and there, and we kind of did our own thing. But as we grew older, he's one of my best friends now. So we lived together for a little bit, getting ahead of myself. But yeah, during school, I played football. I started playing football in 5th grade. I was overweight, pretty much, I would say 1st grade through about 5th grade since I started playing football. It was back when they had weight limits for, your certain grade or whatever. And I would always be the kid who had to get stripped down to his underwear. I had to make that 135. I think I weighed, that was 5th grade. So I was weighing like right at 135 in 5th grade. So I was bigger. Probably my heaviest or, sloppiest look, I guess you could say. It's hard to say that for a 4th grader, but probably 4th grade. And then once I started playing football, that quickly shifted. Like I said, I started kind of tampering with weights in 6th grade. So it wasn't long after football, I was like, this is cool. Let's be active. I started to just jog around the block and do stuff like that. And then I just focused on football for a while, and then played football through high school and didn't really do any other sports until middle school. I wrestled for about 2 years. Have the utmost respect for wrestlers. I think it's one of the hardest sports in the world. Even just the conditioning itself, it's a whole different beast. Did that, really enjoyed it, but my heart was still set on football. I was like, that's the route I want to go. Needed that outlet kind of during the winter months because, in middle school, especially, they don't have winter football liftings or stuff like that. So needed something to do, skied for a little bit just for fun. And then high school was mainly football.
Okay. Now, I want to pull out a few things from what you just shared, but before I do, academically, did you just kind of go to school like most of us did because you wanted to play sports, or did you actually enjoy school? Talk about that for a quick minute.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily feel one way or the other about school. It was more of a social time with friends, which I did strive to get good grades. I can't say I really enjoyed the work and the classes itself. But yeah, keeping eligibility, which never was an issue. I averaged, A's and B's mostly, all throughout school. And then as I got older, it got better, because I wanted to play football in college and, thinking about all that. And college was a different story, obviously, because I stopped playing football, but I'm sure we'll touch on that soon.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I just want to ask a little bit more about kind of like, you said your parents are still together, but it seems like it's been for a long time, like I guess maybe a lack of a better term, like a rocky relationship, more of kind of like roommates, right? So, and you said that, what did that, I mean, when you like heard your mom talk crap about your dad and vice versa, I mean, when you're a younger kid and you're growing up in that, you don't really know any different, but I'm assuming probably by the time you got to high school, are you having like sleepovers over at friends' houses? You probably are exposed to, like most of us, to different family environments, different dynamics. So was there a point where that really maybe frustrated you and maybe caused some turmoil inside of you? And if so, can you talk about that for a minute, Tim, please?
Yeah, big time. I don't know when I really started realizing, like this is, deep down, it's not normal, but it was my normal. So, I have one friend in particular, Logan. I would go over to his, his house when he lived at home with his parents, and I'm like, this is different. Like this is what I picture, family should be. And that kind of made me start realizing, like, I just didn't want to be in the middle of it. It's like split or you live together. Just don't bring me, don't try to turn me against my dad, and don't try to turn me against my mom. Like, you're both my parents at the end of the day. So I'm not going to go one way or the other. Some days, yeah, me and my mom have ups and downs, and so do me and my dad. And I can relate with my mom on things that I can't relate with my dad, and vice versa. So there came to a point where, I guess this was semi recently, within the past few years, I just started going to therapy. There's a lot going on in life, and just to have an unbiased ear that I could just, whether it's venting or getting opinions, fill them in, because this still goes on today. My mom will be like, your dad does this and your mom does this and blah, blah, blah. And I've come to the point where I'm like, just keep me out of it. I don't want to hear it. So that's between you and her, and that's between him and you. So that's kind of where I'm at there.
Why do you feel like you connected better, I guess, or, had that better relationship with your mom when you were younger? Did you guys just kind of click just because, or was there a specific reason?
I really don't know. I think in a way it was kind of manipulate. I love my mom. Obviously she didn't manipulate me, but my dad kind of took my brother to do, work on cars and stuff like that. And I've never really been a car guy, and just not my thing. And my mom could see that, and she's like, oh, don't make Tim work on cars. Or she almost saw like my dad was trying to manipulate me, which he was just trying to inform me. So she kind of like pulled me from the situation, and which, I don't regret anything that's happened. It's kind of made me who I am today. But yeah, I don't think there was necessarily something that necessarily split us. It was just kind of my brother going that way and my mom taking me the other way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, you mentioned that you wanted to play college football, but it sounds like you didn't. So walk us through, once you graduated high school, how did life kind of unfold from there, Tim?
Yeah. So all throughout high school, for the most part, I was, like I said, set on football. Really started getting into working out, kind of heavily sophomore year. It was even, we had obviously 2-a-days. So we would have like a little lifting session in between. It was either in the morning or in between sessions. But I loved the working out aspect of it. So I would go, there was a gym, we had like a bike path, and I would just walk the bike path to the gym after our second practice, and like, do my bodybuilding movements. So I could, more hypertrophy stuff rather than, power cleans and stuff like that. So I knew, that's kind of when I started thinking like, oh, maybe I want to do strongman competitions. I saw Mariusz Pujanowski, and I'm like, again, how can you be so strong and so lean? He kind of did it all. It's like you see Zadrinas Savickas, and I'm like, okay, that's a big dude, strong, but he doesn't look the part that I was looking to get. So I saw Mariusz, and I'm like, maybe that's the route I should go. Thought about, didn't really do any like strongman stuff. Powerlifting, I was decently strong in high school. It was more so because I was consistent. The majority of my team, it was you do your football lifts, and maybe they would go to the gym after school and kind of socialize and mess around. But I was disciplined, and I wanted to see myself progress. So I would actually pretty much track my programs, and I wouldn't necessarily track my food, but I would eat, make sure you eat, because especially high schoolers, you're eating whatever you want. You're not tracking anything. Your protein's low, everything's out of whack. So that's when I was like, I don't know if I want to go to the strongman, powerlifting. I originally did not want to go bodybuilding. I was like, I really don't care if I have a set of abs. I just want to be big, strong, and decent looking. And then I got I don't know if I forget exactly how, but I ordered, Jay Cutler has I think it's Undisputed. It's his DVD. It's black and white. And I probably watched that. Oh, I don't even know, 20 times like the first month. It was always playing, and I was hooked, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is the way I want to go. Probably junior year or senior year of high school, I knew, I was like, football's great. I'm going to finish it out through high school. I have a bunch of friends doing it. I still enjoyed it, but I was like, after high school, like bodybuilding is the path I want to go. I got a few, small D2 offers at best. My dad worked at Kent State too. So I was like, I can take this D2 offer at Lake Erie College or whatever, and, pay for school, or I can go to Kent State, get school for free, and then pursue bodybuilding, my true passion. So it was kind of a no-brainer there. So that's the path I went.
Okay. Now I want to touch on college in a quick minute, but what was it specifically? Because I'm assuming that we're probably around the same age. How old are you, Tim?
27.
Oh, okay. So I got a few years on you. I'm 35, but like I grew up like, idolizing, looking up to like Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman. That's kind of the era I grew up in, right?
For sure.
So I know like the DVDs you're talking about and all that is just a fun time of bodybuilding. But what was it specifically, like you getting that DVD, and what hooked you? What like really attracted you? Because you're kind of like doing the football training, and then the thinking about the strong man, and what really sucked you in or pulled you into bodybuilding, where it's like, dude, this is it. This is what I want to be and do.
Yeah. Growing up, I thought, there was strong men in powerlifting, obviously strength, they're strong dudes. Bodybuilding, you hear it through the grapevine. It's like, oh, they look big and strong, but they're just big, it's like show muscle. And, you see Jay and Dorian, and I'm like, okay, this is not just show muscle. I'm like, these dudes have some power. So that kind of drew me in. I'm like, you can be this big, strong, lean. It kind of tackles it all for me. Yeah, that's kind of what really drew me in, and just seeing your body change, the discipline. It's like, you're different than the average person, whether I try to stay pretty low key, in the gym, I'm a hoodie, sweatpants guy. But you still get people, like, oh dude, like, how strong are you? That's crazy. How much protein do you eat? And I'll entertain them, but I've never done it for, to get attention, which, my fiance's mom, this was last summer, we were boating, and there was this kid on another boat, like, oh man, like, you're looking crazy. And she's like, that's what you want. And I'm like, that is not what I want. I'm like, I'm just doing this for me. I want to see how far I can take it. And yeah, that's kind of what really got me going.
Cool, man. And I think it's probably fair to say too, I mean, if Jay Cutler was kind of like your first major exposure to bodybuilding, I mean, I can't tell you how many times, we talk about Jay Cutler on the podcast. Usually when I ask, the first question about favorite bodybuilders of all time, Jay Cutler, if not every single podcast episode, every other, he comes up, and we kind of chit chat, because he's my favorite bodybuilder of all time. But like, I mean, he's different, right? Like I mean, I think at one point, maybe you could call him like some sort of like meathead type, but like his personality's changed now that he's retired, and he's kind of more, he calls himself kind of like a social media influencer. You've seen him really open up, and I love it. But like when you watch his DVDs back in the day, and like stuff on YouTube back in the early days of YouTube, like, dude, it was all business, man. Like he just like, it was just eating, training, sleeping. Like he lived a life, but there was always something different. I think it was his personality. You kind of gathered that he was like, investing in like real estate. So it's just like a really great role model for a young person, a young guy to look up to if they're just getting into bodybuilding, right?
For sure. Like there's more than just bodybuilding, like obviously we love it. We all love it. We do it every day, but it's, there's more to that.
Yeah, for sure. So that's cool that he was kind of the one that ushered you in. Now I want to talk, before we kind of dive fully into bodybuilding, I want to kind of get into college, and then I'm freezing up again. I can still see it though. So I'm just going to keep going. I want to talk a little bit about college, and then I also, I want to kind of get into your career. So talk to us, Tim, about your college experience, and then what did you study?
Yeah. So I started college in the fall of 2019. 2013. I started studying nutrition and dietetics. I thought that was the path I wanted to go, just being fascinated with bodybuilding. And, I thought, I'm going to learn all about foods, carbs, vitamins, minerals, whatever. My whole first semester was not that. I'm sure it would have got to that. But right off the bat, they're like, we have to start building our portfolio for when we apply to our internships. And after, I learned a lot about what that field does and what the future had to hold. And I was like, okay, this probably isn't for me. So I did my, my normal classes like writing or whatever, a math class. The next semester, I was kind of in a pinch per se. I didn't necessarily have to pick a major right there, but I felt like everybody else was set. I go, this is the path I'm going. Or even coming out of high school, people were like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. And I was like, I have no clue what I'm doing. So obviously I wasn't going to pass up on college because my dad worked at Kent and I couldn't, you can't pass up on a free degree. So at that point I was like, I want maybe do something medical. There's always going to be jobs in the medical field. That's when I just kind of on a whim chose nursing. I felt like there were so many avenues you could go, whether you're working different floors, administrative work, different wellness clinics, there are a lot of routes you can go. So like, okay, I'm gonna get my nursing degree. Don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but this is the route I'm going. So given that I didn't know what I was gonna do my first pretty much 2 semesters of school, I ended up applying to the nursing program with a poor GPA. Did not get in. It was pretty rough my first 2 semesters. My close friend and I, we would go to it's called Structure and Function. It's like a biology anatomy class. It was a 7:30 class, and I don't even know why we went, because I would put my feet up immediately and fall asleep, and I would just leave after class. And I'm like, why did I even go to this? I'd fail all the tests. I ended with like a C-. I got a D in another history class. So didn't get into the nursing program, talked to my advisor, and they're like, well, either you can change your major or you can retake these classes. They take the better grade and then you can reapply. So I was like, I'll just retake them, because I didn't try. I was like, I know if I apply myself, I can actually do this. So next semester I ended up retaking all the classes that I got a C or below in. I ended with I had 1 A- and the rest were A's. So I was like, okay, so I applied to the nursing program with like a 3.92, got in that time. That just shows, if you apply yourself, you can do it. And I was not applying myself. And then throughout nursing, we started clinicals. So we were on like a med surg floor, like a normal medical floor. First day, I was like, this is not for me. This is not for me. I was like, again, I respect the hell out of nurses, and I'm like, I can't do this. It's just, obviously the patients are not having a good day. They're in the hospital. Chances are they're going to treat you poorly in some scenarios, which they did. And it's hard to look past that. Doctors can tend to treat nurses poorly. I felt like I was just, doing everybody's work. I was doing the doctor's work. I was doing the patient's work. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I finished that clinical and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I changed my major again. I was like, I'll go pharmacology, even though it's 8 more years of school or whatever. So changed it. This was right after the spring semester. So going into the summer, I was like, okay, I'll pick up in the fall where I left off and kind of start fresh. Before the fall semester even started, I switched back to nursing. I was like, I can't do another 8 years. I'm just going to finish it out, get this degree, and go from there. So I was back and forth and back and forth. Again, didn't know what route I wanted to go with nursing when I finished. I was like, well, maybe once I start making some money with nursing, it'll be more tolerable. Not the case. So if anybody's thinking that, it's not the case. I did get my degree in nursing. I got a job in the emergency department by my house. Was working nights. This was actually my first prep for North Americans. So I was working nights while prepping for North Americans, which was a whole beast in itself. Did poorly, but that's for another story. Towards the end of that prep, I was only there for about a year. I decided, like, yeah, it's decent money. I'm not enjoying myself. It was kind of taking a toll on my mental health, especially with working nights and prep. And I couldn't really pinpoint what was affecting me. So ended up leaving there and just going back to a gym that I was working at previously, which I really enjoyed. And yeah, so right. Do you want me to keep going where I'm at now?
Yeah. I want to kind of finish up the career talk because then we're going to dive into bodybuilding.
For sure. Yeah. So worked at a gym for a while. Did some just kind of side jobs in between. And now I'm at a hyper wellness clinic. So we do like IV vitamins, minerals. We have oxygen chamber, more like proactive health stuff. We have cryotherapy. It's more of a retail spot, but I'm the nurse manager there. So I have a little more authority, and I get to use the services, which helps with bodybuilding itself. But yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Okay. Now I want to ask you before we transition out of the career talk, Tim, what do you I mean, because obviously, like you said, having a degree in nursing and having that, I mean, all the anatomy and just all that experience, like that's pretty valuable, especially nowadays in the times we're living in. Like, I mean, there's no lack of jobs within the health field, especially for like nurses and things like that. But long term, are you hoping that you can kind of like make a career in the bodybuilding fitness world, like through coaching, or are you hoping to kind of use the experiences with the nursing and what you're doing now to maybe open up your own gym or your own clinic, or what's kind of the long-term goal that you have if you do career wise?
Yeah. I thought about coaching in the past. I really only have 2 clients right now. One's doing his first show later this year, and then another one's just a lifestyle client. I mainly just do that for, I like doing it. I like helping people. I don't use that as like a paycheck really. I just kind of do it because I enjoy it. The kid doing his first show, he's a good friend of mine, and I was like, yeah, I'll help you out. It started off as a lifestyle thing. He wanted to drop some weight. His girlfriend competes, and he's like, I want to do a show. I was like, okay. I'm like, I really didn't want to get into this, but only for you. Let's do this. So yeah, I don't know about the coaching aspect of it. I do have high hopes of the place I'm at now. So I'm actually leaving my current job. My last day is Friday, and then I start up at a new wellness clinic. Pretty much same thing on Tuesday. It's independently owned, 4 business partners. I think there's a lot of growth potential there, with me even possibly becoming like a partner of theirs. So yeah, I'm just kind of taking it day by day. I don't really have like a set goal, but we'll just kind of see where it goes.
Okay, cool. Love it, man. Okay, bodybuilding time. So you start lifting weights kind of in, high school, seriously for sports. Now, once you got into college, did you kind of like fully dive into like the hypertrophy training and you got, you were exposed to Jay Cutler? Is that really when you started to train like a bodybuilder? And then walk us through your first actual competition.
Yeah. So even towards the tail end of our senior year of football in high school, I was like, after football's done, like it's bodybuilding mode. So there's a local show, a natural show by us, run by Dave Lieberman, which is, it was held at the Lakewood High School, which is about an hour from me. I was like, this is the path I want to go. So that show, I want to say, was beginning of October. So I graduated high school. Obviously, this was going into college. So yeah, there was I worked at a gym right by my high school. I became really good friends with one of the trainers there. We became just, training partners. He's done like 2 shows in the past, and he's like, hey, I'll help you out with the prep. No cost, like we're friends. And I was like, cool. Like I had no clue what I was doing. Like, sounds like a plan. So he kind of did my first prep. Overall, for the first prep went really good. I was very disciplined. I was like, this is what I have to do to be successful. Then this is what I'm going to do. that was in 2013. So I can't remember exactly how I was feeling. I feel like I was more excited than the excitement kind of overtook feeling like crap with the cardio and the low food and everything. So that prep went really good. I competed in the teen division and the men's light heavyweight. I think I weighed in at 176. Yeah, did poorly. I got second in the teen, and then I think I got 10th in the light heavyweight. But again, I didn't really have any expectations. I'm like, this, it's just going to keep getting better and better. So I wasn't disappointed. I was happy. Ate way too much food afterwards, like most people do after their first competition. And then I kind of started game planning for the second one. That prep coach or friend, we kind of had a falling out later after that, not bodybuilding related. And then I was just kind of doing my own training. And then I did my second show in 2015.
Okay. So just kind of keep walking us through your competition history then, Tim, because I kind of want to hear more about that.
For sure. So ended up switching gyms when I was in college to Buckeye Gym in Talmadge, which is, again, local to me. This was in 2015. I became good friends with another guy at that gym. I can't remember exactly how we became friends. I think I might have reached out with him just because he did prep in the past. I was just like, hey, I want to do this show in May. Are you taking on any new clients? And we became good friends as the prep went on. That prep went well, it went good. Again, I don't think I had any issues at all that prep. I'm trying to remember. Sorry, it was a while ago.
Oh no, yeah, and I know 2015, dude, that's been a few years ago.
Yeah. That I did the North Coast in Kent, Ohio, which again is, 10, everything's pretty local to me, which is great. So, 10 minutes from where I lived. Came in better. I was leaner. I think I weighed in. I was a light heavyweight then as well. I was right at 197. So added a good bit of tissue within those, year and a half, 2 years. Mike was my coach for that one. I think, he was a little more well-versed in the bodybuilding world, so he could kind of manipulate things a little better than my previous coach. And I did not play. I can't remember what I placed, but I didn't place at that show. I knew, if I wanted to keep going and it wasn't an experience thing for me. I did my 2 shows. I'm like, I want to do well. It's like, it's fun, but it's more fun when you win. So after that, I was like, okay, I need to take some time off. Maybe think about getting with like a more well-known coach, I guess you could say, because these were kind of both, gym friends in a way. So after the North Coast, I ended up doing the Francois. So this prep I did on my own. I might have done it as more of just a personal challenge to me. I kind of knew what I was doing at this point. It was, when was that? That was 2017. So another 2 years off. This was my last year of college, coming into my last year of college. I had a lot on my plate, senior year of nursing school, broke college kid. I lived with 3 of my best friends. So, doing a prep while finishing out school, and, they're going out to the bars. We lived, a mile from the bars. So it could seem to be hard to stay disciplined, but, when you have that goal, it really wasn't an issue. Even looking back, it's like, dang, I missed out on that. I don't see it as missing out, because at that time, that's what I wanted. And, that's what I wanted. So I don't regret not experiencing that with them. I still my best friends to this day. So we've had plenty of good experiences and plan to have more. So that prep, it was the Francois. So that was held towards Columbus. That was a May show as well. I ended up winning the heavyweight and the novice that year. I can't say there was a lot of people. It wasn't that stacked of a class or show per se. But yeah, I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, this is what winning feels like. I love it. I still want to keep improving. And I'm like, now that I have a good base, I'm like, this is where, I'm getting out of college. I'm going to start making some real money. I need to get with the coach. So that's when I got with Derek Natcher. I started with him shortly after the Francois in 2017. And I was like, hey man, like, I want to see where we go with this. Are you willing to work with me? And, I worked with Derek I stopped with him right after juniors. So in 2021, so we were together for 3 years, a little over 3 years. Nothing but good things to say about Derek. Very good dude, smart guy. Taught me pretty much everything I know about bodybuilding. After the Francois, so I got with Derek. I'm like, I want to see where I just, stand up against the big dogs. So that's when we started prep for North Americans. I kind of going back on what I said, this was more of an experience for me. This Martin Fitzwater was doing this show. There was some big people doing this show. And I was like, chances are I'm not going to win this one. So I went into it, again, like heavily improved. I was a heavyweight. So I weighed in at 223. So, another 2 years, like another good amount of muscle. Again, leaner, posing was better. Everything just kind of got better with a new coach, a real coach. And so after North Americans, I wanted to keep going with it, fine tune some things. I knew I wasn't ready to just hop back into another, pro qualifier. So that's when we were shooting for junior USAs. So I'm like, maybe let's do it, a regional show. Baby steps. I feel like not a lot of people, at least bodybuilders, don't do that now. They kind of want their card and there's no in between. It's like local and then pro card. Which when I did do juniors, Pittsburgh was in between there. Not much to say for that. I ended up coming out second. This was 2021. So I ended up coming second in the supers. Junior USA's was 2 weeks after that. I was able to prep for Pittsburgh and junior USA's with my best friend, Mark Peck. He's a classic physique A guy. And he did middleweights. So it was cool having, that friend to talk to and, like, damn, this sucks. Cardio sucks. Like, what are you eating? This is what I'm eating. So we could kind of relate on that. And I had a few other friends that were doing similar shows that I could kind of bounce things off of. But yeah, having Mark there was huge. He used to live up here and he moved to Florida shortly after we became good friends. So I'm like, great, man. Thanks for befriending me and leaving me. But did Pittsburgh and juniors with Mark. Juniors, there was honestly a pitiful amount of bodybuilders. I was the only super, and they put me on stage with the heavies, which I want to say there were only 4 heavies. So not a lot going on. Thankfully I did win the overall at juniors in 2021. Which in I felt awesome. I'm like, even though there wasn't competition, it was the best I looked. I'm like, we're heading in the right direction. Like, I'm slowly like building something special in my eyes. It's like, it's all coming together. Even though there wasn't that huge competition, I'm like, I'm heading in the right direction. This is what I was picturing. So after juniors, I was kind of just debating, I felt like I could have came in a little leaner for juniors. I've never really been like peeled. So again, nothing against Derek, but I was like, maybe I want to try a different route. So I kind of did some consultations with a few other coaches. Ended up switching over to a different coach. We didn't last long together. And I'm currently with Bleau Taylor. Started with him in September and things are going great. Everything's clicking, like I'm growing. I'm at an all-time high weight. I'm pretty much leaner than I was at, 20 pounds ago. So everything's clicking really well. Bleau's, I'd highly recommend them for anybody who's really kind of taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
And then we're
Okay.
planning on North Americans this year. So
Okay. So we'll touch on that in a minute now, and we're gonna touch on Blue because I've had a couple of his clients on, and I know that he's making a name for himself as a coach for sure. Now taking a step back, let's talk about Derek. He's actually which I didn't know that he was your coach at one point, but I think he's coming on the podcast. I think Saturday or Sunday. I've got him scheduled, so that'll be cool. But he's the one, it sounds like, that kind of took you to another level, right? You kind of had a couple gym buddies helping you and stuff. And then you said, Derek, I think you were with him for 2 or 3 years, and he really, taught you all that you know about bodybuilding current days. So what was it specifically about Derek that kind of just helped you go to another level? Was it just increasing your food? Did he manipulate your training? Was he just more well-versed, on the PED side of things? Was it all of it? Can you just kind of talk about some of those specifics, please, Tim?
yeah, man, all of the above, really. Like I said, coming from working with 2 kind of gym friends, they knew what worked for them, and they kind of put it on to me, which, some of it did work and some of it I felt like could have gone better. Derek, was able to work specifically for me. If I'm like, this doesn't work, or, he could see, like, okay, egg whites don't do well for you. You're doing too much cardio, or you look better on high fats, low carb, or whatever. He was really able to have that eye and tweak things. When I was doing my own prep, it's a whole, like, even working night shift, but it was a whole big mind game. I'm like, I look so fat, and then I see pictures and I'm like, I was so flat. Like, it's complete opposite. I'm like doing 2 hours of cardio or whatever, when I should have probably been eating more and doing something else. So just having a real coach that I could just put all my trust into, and like, you tell me the plan and I'll just do it. And it's like keeping it like mindless in a way. I'm paying you to like be my brain in a way.
Yeah, yeah. Now training, before we go any further and talk about Coach Bleau and your plans for 2023, how has your training evolved over the years, Tim?
Yeah, so in the past, I would pretty much just I started off as like a 4 sets 10 reps guy, or 4 sets 12 reps. I've kind of played with everything personally. I was like, well, maybe I'll do more sets, lower reps. Maybe I'll do 1 top set and a back off set. Maybe I'll do 8 movements in 1 top set. So I can't really say how I started. It was more probably just videos and whatever everybody else was doing. But at least what I found that works well for me is kind of like 2 top sets and a back off set. I do that for a while. Blues training is a little different than I'm used to, so that definitely took some getting used to, especially when I started with him. He wanted to get me a little leaner, so our rest periods were very short and volume was high. It took some getting used to. It was rough.
Okay. Now, what's kind of like been your focus over this last year or so? What's been your focus, Tim, in terms of body parts that you're really trying to maybe add that extra tissue to or bring up? Obviously, most bodybuilders, unless they're Mr. Olympian, even then, they're probably going to say, we're all trying to just get bigger, right? That's kind of the
Right.
name of the game, especially when you're a super heavyweight. But we're always trying to like kind of nitpick and really get specific with body parts. So which body parts have you been really focusing on bringing up recently?
Yeah, I mean, my legs have always been kind of a struggle spot for me. That's how it was hard because my legs are decently strong. I can throw a decent bit on the pendulum squat, and it's just fine tuning. And am I really feeling it, or am I just moving this weight? So, I got away from barbell squatting for the most part because I throw 4 or 5 plates on there, and I could move it for reps. And I started to realize, like, why do I feel more from 225, 315? I'm like, what's up with that? Not saying you're not going to grow from heavy weights, but I kind of had to really, dig deep into the mind muscle connection and be like, am I growing here, or am I getting stronger? You know, I can't say that they're mutually exclusive, but yeah, so my legs for sure. My arms could definitely use a little more size, bicep, tricep. I feel like my shoulders and chest are probably my strongest currently, especially my shoulders. I did just a comparison the other day of before I started prep for juniors and this past weekend, and it was crazy. They pretty much doubled in size, and it's funny because I do not enjoy doing shoulders, and they just kind of react. So I guess that's a good thing. So I was going to talk to Bleau about maybe cutting or pulling it back a little bit on the shoulders and adding in some more hamstring movements, because I feel like my hamstring from the side could definitely use a little more hang, and probably just back, a little more back. But I feel like my chest, shoulders, quads are decently, they're pretty good, and just hamstrings, back, and arms overall.
Okay. Now, so if you're trying to put on a little more size on your hamstrings, what are some movements that you have been focusing on, to kind of like bring up those hamstrings specifically?
Yeah, so I just started doing heavy RDLs or straight leg deadlifts, which I never really did in the past. I would kind of do it with dumbbells. I've been doing a straight bar, but I was doing it with dumbbells and just kind of feeling the stretch. But now that I've added in some, heavy straight legs, I feel like that's going to really help add some density and thickness to them. And we just got the old Strive plate loaded leg curl, and I feel like I can connect with that more than any other hamstring movement. We have an old Icarian single leg pin select, which is great too. So it's just kind of figuring out what movements I feel best, because my one of my good friends, Sam and Mark, they have the strongest hamstrings I've ever seen, and I'm like, I don't know how this is possible. Sam's a very kind of average guy, and I'm like, I don't get it. He seated ham curls, this guy can move the whole stack, and I'm doing 120 pounds. But yeah, those are kind of the movements I've found been really working for me.
Okay, awesome, Tim. Now, did you take so the last time you were on stage was 2021, from what I gathered from what you were talking about your competition history, is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Now, when did you remind me? I know you said it, but I forgot. When did you connect with Bleau then? When did you guys kind of officially start working together?
I started working with Bleau beginning of September of 2022. Okay. So we've been together for what, 5 months now?
Okay. Now, the question I want to ask is, why Bleau? Obviously, he had Mr. USA this past year, Stuart, super cool guy. He's been on the podcast quite a few times. I love him. And I mean, I see a lot of the athletes that he currently has and stuff. Obviously, he's a pro himself. There's a plethora of coaches out there. There's really great coaches. There's okay coaches. There's coaches that shouldn't be coaching. But as you were going, and I like to bring this up a lot, Tim, because I want to give the listeners and the people that are watching this some value. And especially, I want to try to guide some of the people that are just getting in this kind of in the right direction. And all of you guys, whether you're a pro or a top NPC competitor, like, people look up to you guys, just like when we were coming up, we looked up to the Jay Cutlers and all that. So that's why I'm kind of asking this more for those who are maybe just getting into this. So when you were kind of going through your coaching search process, you said you got on some calls with some different coaches. At the end of the day, why did you choose Bleau? Like, what was the main reason that you chose him?
Yeah, so I originally even kind of thought about reaching out to Bleau was my good friend Trey. Trey's a super heavy as well. We were with the same coach in the past, and I think very highly of Trey.
Adcock, is that who you're talking about? Yep. Yeah, he's been on the podcast. Cool guy. Yeah,
very good dude. So I reached out to him. I knew he started with Bleau, and I was like, I'm just going to reach out. I'm going to talk to him and see. Trey's really never steered me wrong in the past. So I scheduled a call with Bleau. It's funny because I messaged him on Instagram at 7 o'clock my time when I woke up, 7 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't realize he was Pacific time. So I was like 4 o'clock his time. So he messaged me back in, 2 minutes. And he's like, call me at whatever time, Pacific time. So when I did call him, I was like, hey, dude, I'm like, I didn't mean to message you at 4:00 in the morning, your time. And he's like, oh no, man, you're good. He's like, I didn't sleep last night. And I laughed, and he's like, no, I'm serious. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you're that guy. So, but yeah, I had a really good call with Bleau. We talked for probably close to an hour. He filled me in on, who he is. Obviously his resume kind of speaks for itself. And something that really drew me to him was he doesn't, he has a lot of experience with, bigger guys. It's hard to get a 270 pound, 260 pound guy, shredded. In my opinion, I feel like, you see middleweights that are peeled, and you don't often see a super heavy that's, peeled to the bone. And I know Bleau can do that. So that was kind of my main goal when searching for coaches. I was like, who can get a super heavy shredded? It's kind of few and far between. So that's kind of what drew me to him. And then the call kind of sealed the deal. Like I said, we talked for almost an hour. I asked him a few questions. He was very open with me. Communications there, it's always been there. He's like, he never sleeps. So I'm like, I reach out whenever I need to, and he gets back to me very quickly. So yeah, that kind of sealed the deal.
Okay, cool. Now, if you were going to just give some advice in terms of, finding the right coach, because everybody says, well, you got to find the right coach. Well, it's like, yeah, we get that. How do you do that? Right. Especially when you jump on Instagram and everybody's a coach and you don't know what you don't know. Right. It's hard sometimes. So now you just brought up a great point in terms of like, hey, I'm a super heavyweight. I want to find a coach that can get a super heavyweight peeled. So that's a very specific thing or aspect of a coach that you were looking for. I think that's great. Outside of that, what are some other suggestions that you would give us in terms of finding, quote unquote, the right coach? Like how can you do that when you really don't know what you're looking for?
Yeah. I mean, even in the past, I've reached out to the coach's clients and, like, what's it like working with, X, Y, and Z. And then, if they're currently working with them, they're pretty much going to tell you all the good things, which is expected. If somebody asks me what's bad about working with Bleau, and I'm like, nothing's bad, which I can honestly say nothing's bad. So, you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. But it's nice to hear from their perspective. It's like, well, I check in with Quentin on Saturdays. He doesn't really get back to me until like Wednesday. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit of a red flag in a way. I could see if you're in the off season, you don't need anything changed, and so be it. But it'd be nice to hear, within a day or two, okay, keep rolling as you are. So I would say, reach out to the coach's clients. I would try to schedule a call or a FaceTime session with that coach and just kind of see, how they structure things, kind of fill them in on what you're currently doing and see, what, if I did sign up with you, what are the next steps? Are you going to tell me when to do a show, or do I kind of have free reign of picking and we'll just go from there? Obviously pricing. I feel, at least in my opinion, if you're not kind of one of the top genetic freaks, if you go with top tier coaches, pro coaches, you might not get the attention that you need and pay for from a lower coach, I guess you could say. I feel like, and again, I've never talked to Hani or whoever, but if let's say I signed up with Hani and I'm not a pro yet, I feel like Bleau would give me a little more attention to kind of get me there than Hani, because Hani has his plate full with everybody, these top people. So just kind of take that into account. And something else I kind of learned within the past year or two is, ask what's included in this, this price. If whether I pay you for a year, does that include, cardio, nutrition, training, everything? Or is that going to include my prep? Because I know some coaches have a separate prep cost. Some coaches they'll tackle your cardio and nutrition and check-ins, but they won't provide you with a training program. That's a separate price. So it's just kind of something to see, what does this all include? So that's kind of my 2 cents there.
Okay. One more quick question, and I'm not asking you to give any, specific numbers, but again, for people that maybe just have no clue, we're just talking about someone that's just getting into bodybuilding. we're not going to go after Hani Rambod or, you know, Chris Aceto or anything like that. That would be stupid. But they're just looking for a good coach that can kind of move them in the right direction. And there's just like, there's different levels of bodybuilders. There's different levels of coaches, right? Like there can be you could maybe say a lower level coach. They're going to be great for your first, second, third, fourth, fifth show if you're just starting out, right? And then like you did, you kind of, as you progress as a bodybuilder, you progress with coaches. So, you know, I just want to make sure we're clear on that. But price range, if you're reaching out to a coach and let's just say basically everything's included, right? The training, the nutrition, the check-ins, prep, all that. Like what's a decent price for somebody to pay for a lower level, mid-level coach? So people aren't getting ripped off.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's going to depend on the coach too, but on average, I would say 200 to 300 a month, if it includes everything. And, you know, a lot of coaches do, you know, sign up for a year and you save $100 or you save 200, whatever. So it's different. So if you pay a single month compared to a whole year. So I would say when you break it down, anywhere from 150 to 350 bucks a month, depending on how you pay it, somewhere in that range, I would say.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So let's we're gonna start heading towards the finish line, Tim. 2023, going into this year, what's the mindset? What's the goal? Walk us through what you want to accomplish competitively as a bodybuilder this year.
For sure. So Bleau and I are probably going to start prep up end of April, beginning of May for North Americans. That's kind of our goal show. I'll end up doing pretty much whatever local he thinks is best. I don't know how he wants to space out, whether it's a month out, 6 weeks out. I'm confident that I'm going to be as lean, if not leaner, than I was at juniors by, you know, 8-10 weeks out. So, you know, even once Bleau dieted me down before we even started growing, I was pretty much as lean as I competed at juniors. So I don't think it's going to be any issue getting me shredded. But yeah, I'm going to do the local, whatever, probably something in Pennsylvania or the surrounding states for me, Indiana somewhere. And then I plan on winning the overall at North Americans, taking the super heavyweight. So that's August 31st.
Okay, cool. Love it, man. Now let's, I want to take a step back quickly, a look back to last year. Obviously Stuart is with Bleau. He turned him pro. But out of some of those guys that turned pro, whether they won the overall or not, I'm sure you might be friends or friendly with some of them. Any guys really stand out from the major pro qualifiers last year that you're like, wow, that guy made some huge improvements or super impressive physique? What do you got for me there?
That have already turned pro or that are going to be?
Yeah. Some of the guys that turned pro last year that just really impressed you.
Yeah, I mean, Stu, you know, seeing Stu on Blau's page and just following him, I'm like, the dude's a freak. You know, he's got the round muscle bellies. He's just kind of the complete package. So kind of what I saw Bleau help him accomplish, I was like, that could be me, if not better. You know, it gives me hope. And, you know, with Bleau taking the reins, I think we can definitely accomplish something similar, if not better. And you know, Vincenzo, I know he turned pro at the amateur O. He's just a big guy, you know. You can't look past that. You know, his lat spreads, especially from the back. He's just a massive human. I remember seeing him at the Arnold in, I don't even know, it was probably like 2015. And I'm like, holy shit, like that guy's huge. And then obviously, you know, Trey hasn't turned pro yet, but his time's coming. He's already improved so much. His arms, his shoulders. I think once he kind of fills out his back a little bit more, he's gonna be dangerous.
For sure. Trey's got the shape that most bodybuilders would die for, right?
Absolutely.
Especially on a frame like that. So
right.
Okay. So the goal is to win the overall at North Americans this year. What is your ultimate goal then, if and when you get that IFBB Pro card? What would you like to accomplish before you hang up the posing trunk, so to speak?
Yeah, so let's kind of go a little off track. So after I get my pro card, my fiance and I are gonna plan our wedding finally. So we're gonna handle a few life things. and then I can't say I'm going to be on cruise control, but handle a few life things. And then once I do get back on the stage, I would love to, take a pro show and eventually qualify for the O would be great. That's kind of always been a dream of mine. I personally don't think I have the genetic shape or structure to do, too great, but I think I definitely have the work ethic and to be a successful pro.
Cool. Love it, man. Okay, Tim, a fun question here to kind of close us out. Gym pet peeves, what do you got for me?
Oh man. So I currently go to a gym. It's right next to a college and 2 high schools. So, that already paints the picture for itself. So going there on a Monday night at 5 or 6, half the kids have their shirts off, which, hey, take your shirt off. But, these kids, they need to eat. This kid looks like he's so pale. I don't even know if he ever leaves his house. And, all of them, there's groups of 4 or 5, 6. And I'm like, trying to grab my dumbbell. So, just kind of the social aspect of it all. Everybody knows everybody. There's this little kid in particular. It's this family that comes in at night. Very odd situation. The wife works out. The husband puts her through the workout, and then their child just runs around like it's a playground, like jumps on playing on machines, swinging on ropes. And I'm just, it drives me crazy, man. Not re-racking weights obviously is a big one for me. I could go on and on.
Now, I got to interject quickly. Now, where's like the owner, the gym management? Like, I own a gym, and I wouldn't even,
Right.
Kids aren't even really allowed in my gym just because we have a wellness. We're in a small town, so we have like a wellness center that has the pool, and people come to this gym because they don't, not in a mean way, but they want to come and work out. They don't want the kids running around. A lot of the parents want to kind of get away from the kids for a quick minute. I wouldn't even tolerate that. I guess I don't even understand, like, why wouldn't somebody say something, or why? That's like an insurance issue right there.
Honestly, it's a great question. I don't know. I don't know if the owner or, the people that work there might know them. Because I feel like there was a worker there before, and the same thing, the kids running around and nothing was said. So I'm like, if this is on you guys, if something happens to this kid, he's jumping on the Stairmaster, I'm like, I'm just kind of, I don't know. I don't want nothing bad to happen. So, but if you guys are okay with it, like, that's on you.
Yeah. That would give me instant anxiety if I was in there trying to squat or like train like real, and I could, like, I personally couldn't do it, man. Like, I would have instant
and it lands on the kid's foot or something.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Different gym cultures out there that we're dealing with nowadays, right, Tim?
Sure.
So now, one final thing here. You kind of mentioned this in passing, kind of in the beginning of our conversation, and I want to bring this up to kind of wrap up our conversation. I'll give you kind of the last words after that, and then we'll close it out. But you kind of said earlier, or talked about how you bodybuild for yourself, right? Like, when you're, I think it was your mother-in-law or somebody said, you guys are boating. Hey, man, you're looking jacked, and it's like, oh, that's what you want. And you're like, no, that's not what I want. I do this for myself. Expound on that a little bit more, because we are living in a different bodybuilding fitness culture where it's like people are taking off their shirts in the gyms, and it's kind of like, look at me, and it's the Instagram, social media. And a lot of us got into bodybuilding that are around our age, not for all that. And I feel like the bodybuilding culture nowadays, of course it's different, but I feel like it's not what it used to be on some levels. And explain why you do this for yourself and not for Instagram or anybody else or anything else, Tim.
Yeah, even when I started, it was a different time, obviously. I'm only 27, but we didn't have Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And I just wanted to, look better myself. I wanted to feel better. I wanted to achieve, something that is not normal. I wanted people to be like, it's cool to see, have somebody like, damn, that guy's crazy. But I do it for me. That's why I'm pretty low key on social media too. I don't tend to post a ton. I don't know if I don't mean to sound better. I'm not trying to sound better than anybody. I don't need that validation from the likes. It's like, it's cool to see and it's cool to get those messages, but I don't know. I just do it for me. I even delete my Instagram here and there because it's just a lot of toxic. It's kind of toxic to be on there too much.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Tim, I know I froze up again, but I want you, if you have any final thoughts or any final words for us, I want you to kind of leave us with those. Do give us your Instagram, and then if you have any shout outs, give us those. I'll do a quick outro, and then I'll get you out of here. So final thoughts or words, it's yours, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything much. I just really appreciate you having me on here. I've always listened to you here and there, so it's cool to finally get that recognition in a way. I feel like I'm kind of slowly becoming somebody, and people are starting to realize I'm here, and I'm expect big things coming from me and Blue this year. And then I think we have a bright future together. So I feel like we're just really kind of tapping into it. I do want to give a huge shout out to my best friend, Mark. Like I said, he's a classic physique A guy. He's the most resilient person I've ever met. He's gone through a lot ever since, pretty much childhood. I feel like every time there's a prep, things start clicking, things are good. Something bad happens in his life, which is awful, but he never quits. He just had his cervical spine fused. Like he just won't quit, and it shows. So I have the utmost respect for him. He motivates me every day. We talk every day, even though he lives in Florida. And then my fiance, Hannah. So we've been together since 2015, and I honestly can say I can't do any of this without her. Whether I'm working all day, my days pretty much right now start at 5:30. I get up to do fasted. I leave to go to work at 9, and then I get home like at 10:30, 11 at night. So I'm gone most of the day, obviously. And, she makes sure to go to the grocery store, cook the chicken, and I couldn't do it without her. So those are my shout outs there.
Cool. Give us your Instagram. What's your Instagram, Tim?
Yeah, my Instagram is just my first and last name. So Tim, last name is Licata.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, Tim, thank you so much for coming on, man, and sharing your story with us. Okay.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. All of you who are tuning into another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. If you guys have not done so already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button in regards to Behind the Muscle podcast on YouTube. And then please take this episode with Tim. Make sure you share it on your Instagram stories. Please tag Tim, tag Behind the Muscle podcast, so that we know that you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it. And for those of you who were watching this episode on YouTube, I'm going to have to get a new camera here because I've been kind of glitching and freezing up a little bit. So thank you for just being patient with that. I'll get a new camera ASAP. Thank you guys for all your continued support. And then per the usual, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.